Welcome, everybody, to Come Back to Love Radio. I am Robyn Vogel, and we are on Dream Vision 7. This is the radio show where we explore the journeys of healing, connection, and transformation in love and relationships. I'm your host, Robyn Vogel. I'm a love and intimacy coach, a relationship expert, and the creator of Heal Your Heart. Join me each week as I share stories, tools, and insights to help you rewrite your love story, whether it's about overcoming heartbreak, unraveling old patterns, or reigniting the spark in your current relationship. Together, we'll explore how love begins within and expands outward to create meaningful, fulfilling connection with others. You can tune in to Come Back to Love every Thursday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen online, on your mobile device, in your car, while you're going for a walk, or simply ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7. In each episode, I welcome incredible guests who bring their unique perspectives and expertise to help us dive into topics like self-awareness, self-compassion, healing childhood wounds, and creating the love we desire and deserve. Today, I am thrilled to have a long-term mentor and friend of mine whose name is Joanna Lindenbaum. And if it's okay with you, Joanna, I am going to read your bio to our amazing listeners.
Of course.
Joanna Lindenbaum is the founder of the Applied Depth Institute. She teaches master level facilitation and coaching skills to coaches, therapists, and leaders so they can respond powerfully and effectively to the issues their clients bring to them. Using her 20 plus years of experience and extensive background with coaching, human behavior, embodiment practices, archetype, and shadow, Joanna's approach to ethical and trauma-informed facilitation and coaching supports her students to gain a level of skill, confidence, and depth the majority of their peers don't have. So true. Graduates of her signature program, Sacred Depths Practitioner Certification, become the best of the best at what they do. Plus, they experience life-changing personal transformations as they step into this mastery level. All of this positively impacts their businesses, as their proven results then attract more clients, more renewals, more referrals, and more opportunities. Joanna has led hundreds of retreats, workshops, and trainings with thousands of participants and clients in the US and abroad. It's so nice to read that in an encapsulated way since I've known you for so long, and all those things are absolutely true. Well, thank you so much for taking this time out of your day and being here with us.
I am so excited that you invited me for this conversation. I've been looking forward to it.
Good. Me too. And it's so great. We started the call just, in the background together, like, what are we going to talk about today? And first of all, I'm so happy for listeners to know about your work because it is so, so, so powerful. And although we met in another community, we met in another community and while you were sort of just beginning, and I got to watch, from the sidelines and was all of a sudden like, oh my goodness, she's like a rock star now. It's like, wow, what happened? Oh my gosh. And then I was like, I want some of that rock star influence on me. And, started hiring you and asking you to support me in coaching and mentoring and all the good things. So, so we don't know we probably have lots of listeners that are entrepreneurs, and so happy to for them to know about the professional work that you do. And I guess I want to invite you to highlight it again because there are business coaches that just do business coaching, right? And there are people that train people how to uh, create a curriculum and share it and teach. And then there's people doing the depth of healing work. But you, very brilliantly, have brought all these things together because they need and deserve to be together. But I feel like you figured that out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share because I think this will be interesting for listeners. I figured it out by accident.
Mm.
So for the longest time, I was a business and leadership coach. I was helping entrepreneurs both with leveling up their marketing and their business systems while also doing the deep inner work that you need to be able to do better marketing, to be more visible, to have the courage to put yourself out there, to charge your rates. And what I noticed after a number of years of doing this is that the reason why my clients were being so successful in their business wasn't really, or wasn't only, I should say, because of the marketing techniques that I was teaching them. But the other reason why they were doing so well is because they were emulating the transformation that I was moving them through with their own clients. I was modeling deep coaching work, and they were bringing it to their clients who were in turn thrilled, who were in turn renewing with them over and over, bringing referrals to them, which was then creating more confidence to market more, to raise rates, etc. And it was like this light bulb moment of, oh, this whole time this is the other piece that I have been doing is, teaching transformational skills. So, so that's how kind of it came to be that I do trainings for coaches and therapists and other practitioners where we really go deep because the skills are so important. And of course, the inner work that you do is so important.
But I think that's the piece. Like you started out by saying it and you just said it again. Of course, the inner work is so important. And I just want to say like I had done I mean I've always been taking, business trainings and I feel like I have 18 MBAs and no plaque on my wall to like prove it. And that's fine. But you were really the first person that I came across that was like actually, raising your rates, which is a great example. And I know from my own personal, journey with that it's not just like, okay, I'm changing this from, 199 to 599. It's like there's inner work that has to be done or that can be done to really look at what's happening and why it's a challenge to do that. So I just want to say, like, for you, it's an of course, and I don't think it's, true for everybody. And I think it's incredibly powerful and potent work. So
Oh,
just want to acknowledge that. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, good. It sounds like you were recognizing, in like you said, like with your students and your clients, like, oh, this is actually really, really helping them move forward and have their own transformation and support their clients in their own transformation.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, beautiful. Um, well, I know that part of this, we're going to dive into, I think, one of my favorite topics, and maybe yours as well. Uh, I know that part of your study has actually been in Jungian psychology,
Yeah.
and that is one of the pieces that I think you can say, but personally have gone very deeply into studying and learning, and then bringing that into your work, into the realm of working with entrepreneurs. So first of all, let's say what that is so that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, good question. And it's such a great place to start because the term shadow is thrown around so much in the transformational industries and the self-help industries. But very few people actually know what it means, or at least through that Jungian lens, which I think is the most powerful definition of it. And in plain terms, our shadows are the parts of ourselves that we have rejected, that we have decided this is not a part of me. This cannot be a part of me. And so, what we've done with those parts, usually they're unsavory parts, right? So, the jealous part of me, the part of me that wants to be so big, maybe bigger than everybody in the room, the selfish part of me, the lazy part of me, the part of me that is loves sex, is a sex fiend, in all ways, right? So what we do is whatever our family of origin or culture of origin or present culture has told us is wrong, is shameful, is not allowed, can hurt other people, etc. Anger is another big one that gets put into shadow. We put it into shadow. We decide, I can't be this. I won't be this. It's not who I am.
Mm.
But of course, it is. We do have those parts. We're made up of so many impulses and so many parts. And anytime we suppress or repress a part of ourselves, it's going to come to bite us in one way or another and cause trouble and cause havoc and really hold us back from our full potential and from having what we want in our lives, whether that is a deep and loving romantic relationship, whether that is a successful career, whether that's something else.
Hmm. Yeah, it's such an interesting topic to talk about because shadow is so hard to see because, like you said, well, just the word, right? It's in shadow, it's hiding. In internal family systems, we say those parts are exiled. Like just a different word for a similar thing of a part that's cast off and not necessarily in the conscious awareness of the person who has a shadow in all of us, because we all have shadow. Um, yeah.
Absolutely, which is why it's so great to have coaches and therapists and other kind of practitioners who are trained in it because they can often help us see the blind spots and only the shadows that we're actually ready to see.
Right. Yes, that's true. That's a good point. We don't want to force that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take it one step back just for a minute, because I bet there's people out there saying like, well, how, like, are asking, how does it happen? Like, why do we even have them? You did say they're typically parts that are maybe unsavory or we just don't feel comfortable like owning them, like, a competitive part, people might feel uncomfortable about how competitive they feel,
Yeah.
for example. Um, Yeah, I guess I wonder if there's any other
Yeah.
reasons why shadow parts evolve inside of us.
Yeah, the way that I often like to describe it is as follows. Um, Oftentimes it can be from when we're much younger in childhood, but it doesn't have to. It's just any time in our previous lives, we've witnessed or received, been the recipient of something that has maybe gone haywire. So, as an example, let's say we grew up with a father who could never hold a job for one reason or the other. And because the father never held a job, maybe you grew up in a family where you weren't sure about security. You weren't sure where meals would come from. There was always a worry about money, let's say. And so maybe for you at a young age, because of all of this, you decided that laziness is bad. It is bad and harmful to be lazy. And because of that, the way I call it is a sacred contract. You made a sacred contract with yourself. I will not be that thing because that being lazy causes harm. Well, that's all fine and good. And and then that sacred contract gets strengthened because there's so many cultural messages that say you can't be lazy, you gotta work all the time, you have to, right, be productive constantly, all of that. All fine and good, but then maybe because that part of you has been put into shadow as an adult, you see that you're overworking all the time, so much so that you're getting sick from overworking. You don't have a great personal life because of overworking. And there is a part inside of you that you're maybe ashamed of that wants to slow it down, that just wants to take a nap for a whole day, and you resist it and resist it. It's not good for you. But then here's the other thing with shadow, it has to come out sometime at one point or another. Like I said earlier, it bites you in the butt. So at the exact wrong moment, like the day that you have the biggest presentation, that's when that shadow, that slothy kind of shadow, is like not going to work. And you have no control over it.
Mm, yes. I have a metaphor that I use that I really like, and that is that we have like this bus and there's all these shadows. All the different shadow parts are sitting, in all the seats, and they take turns driving the bus. And you're not really aware that that can be happening.
Yeah, I love that metaphor so much. And it's true. The thing with shadow, and this is what I always teach practitioners, is that if you have a part of yourself that you are denying, hating on, separating yourself from, a shadow, you then don't have leverage over that part of you. That part of you, like you're saying, drives the bus,
Yeah.
and in ways that you just have no control, and it either sabotages you or hurts other people.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, exactly. I think one of the ways in my realm of work in relationship and intimacy is that people often will come to me and say things like, I keep dating the same person, they just look different, or I keep having these relationships and they end the same way, or just some thematic pattern and they don't understand why that's happening. And I think it's a great example of a shadow part that's making decisions and driving the bus, quote unquote. And it's not actually what's in the best interest for the person. And they can't see that, what part that is. They're just experiencing the impact or the fallout of not being aware of that shadow part. And it's really human. It's common and it's human.
It's so human, and it's, in some ways we can see it as an outdated survival mechanism
Mm.
because it, if we go back to the time period where we put that part of ourself in shadow, like let's say selfishness, I imagine that that's one of the shadows that might come up in your work, Robyn, right? Like, why do I keep on ending up dating people who don't value me, where I feel like I'm giving to them all the time, but my needs aren't being met, and this and that. Well, it might be that that person has put their selfish self into shadow. Um, if and once they can make this connection of when they decided it was bad to be selfish, no matter what era in their life that was, if you look a little more, you'll see for that moment in their life, they needed to not be selfish. It
Yes.
was completely a survival strategy to be loved in the family, which you need to be loved when you're 9 in order to survive, as
Yeah.
an
Right. Exactly. I know. I was just talking recently with a client who said, I learned not to rock the boat. I don't want to rock the boat. And that's a perfect example. Like there was chaos and confusion in the family. There were things going on beyond obviously their control, and they learned to just be kind of on the sidelines, very quiet, so not to make anything worse. And also, they received a lot of recognition and love and like appreciation
Yeah.
for that. But what happens as a result, it becomes hard to even know what your needs are. Never mind, express them, but, know what your needs are, express them, and be self-ish, self-ish, like self-prioritizing, right?
Yes.
Including yourself in a conversation, including yourself in the relationship by saying, these are the things that I come with and that I require and desire. I don't like to use the word need anymore. Um, and yeah, and it's because, right, it's exactly what you said. It's because that part, that selfish part, is in shadow
Yeah.
and needed to be. And it was a good thing at the time, but, fast forward 40 years, and yeah, you've got someone who isn't getting their needs met in a relationship and maybe doesn't even know what they are yet.
Absolutely. And there's a confusion between the then and there and the here and now, right? So the then and there, the individual didn't have the resources to rock the boat and
Mhm.
stay safe enough.
Right.
The here and now, they probably do have the resources to
Yes.
rock the boat.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most interesting things is that as an IFS therapist, as someone who's done a lot of internal family systems work for, I don't know, a long time now, at least 25 years, personally and then professionally, um, it's so interesting that our parts are not updated often. They're not in the year 2025 that this is. They're back in 1974, when whatever was happening happened, and they just haven't, like you said, they haven't been updated.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they're updated, they're like, oh, okay, no problem. Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Sometimes. And then sometimes it takes a little more.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. All right, we're going to go on a commercial break and come right back to this really interesting topic of shadow. Welcome back to Come Back to Love Radio. We are here today with Joanna Lindenbaum, and we are having an incredibly deep and rich conversation about shadow. And it's definitely something that can be confusing. So I appreciate, the way you've been describing it and explaining it. And I'm guessing that some people will listen to this episode again and again to grasp more. Because it's hard to see. It's really hard to see, which is the fascinating piece about shadow.
It's so true. It's so true. It's like we were saying before, oftentimes we need someone else to mirror it back to us.
Yes.
Or it's just years, of kind of like we finally see it after it biting us in the butt in so many different ways. But that being said, sometimes we can get a glimpse of what our personal shadows are by asking ourselves the question, and this is a riff on a Jung quote, but by asking us ourselves the question, what is the thing that we just hope and pray that we are not? And whatever comes up, like if a bitch comes up, that is that part of ourselves is in shadow. If what comes up for that question is what is the thing that I just hope and pray I'm not, if it's an over talker, then there's probably a part of ourselves that is more fully expressed. That's in shadow. If
Mm.
slut comes up, there is part of ourselves that takes deep pleasure, maybe in sex, that is in shadow. So sometimes we can catch glimpses.
Yes, I was going to ask you, like, how does somebody start? And that is the perfect question. So I'm just going to repeat it. It's like to ask yourself, what is it? What are the things that you truly hope you will never be?
Yeah,
Most people say things like, I'll never be my mother, you know. Um, yes, and a little more specific, what are the characteristics that you are hoping you never
exactly.
are?
Exactly. And it's like the ones that make you shudder to even think that you could possibly have that inside of yourself.
Right. Right. So you don't want to be called a slut. Let's just say that's the one. You gave some great examples because you have judgment about what that word means and who that those people are in the world, quote unquote, right? You have judgment about a behavior or choices. And really, it's that you're judging a part of yourself that loves sex or maybe loves to have promiscuous sex, or I don't like that word, but who's somebody who just loves different kinds of sexual expression and has a judgment internally that that means being a slut. And so there's judgment towards slut, and then there's tucking away all of those impulses and desires that are perfectly human that have to do with sex and sexuality. Yeah?
Exactly. Yeah. And another way to think of it is that every part of ourselves has a whole spectrum of expression.
Mhm.
And when we put something into shadow, we are just considering we call it like the lowest level of expression, the part on the spectrum that is uber harmful either to ourselves or others or uber shameful. But what happens is when we put something in shadow, we don't just put that little bit of the spectrum of that thing into shadow, not just the lowest level expression. We end up cutting ourselves off from the full spectrum of its expression. And ironically, then the thing that we're most scared of or most ashamed of is more likely to come out accidentally than if we were to own that full spectrum inside of us. Because then again, we can decide what the expressions of that shadow are going to
Yeah.
be out in the world.
If it's not in shadow, then it's conscious, and then we can choose and make conscious
Exactly.
choices. Yeah. But
Exactly.
otherwise, it can seep out. It sounds like you're saying. Yeah, that's interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, and it seeps out. It can be something accidental like road rage, right? So, for some people that haven't owned their anger, it's still there, right? It's still there. So instead of when we own our anger, we can maybe set really solid, aligned boundaries. When we don't own our anger, it might come out as road rage. Um, I'll give one other example, because another expression of unrealized shadow is projection. So let's say that you have put your slut part into shadow and you've decided it's not a part of me. Well, anytime you're around someone who is really sexually expressed, maybe has more than one sexual partner, you not just like know like oh maybe she's a little slutty, but it gets your goat, like it upsets you, it triggers you to be around that person. And by the way, that's another way if you're like, huh, I wonder what some of my shadows are.
Mhm.
See who triggers you and what about them really triggers you. You spot it, you got it, as they say.
Yes. Yes, as they say. Yeah, that's a great one. And that's a hard pill to swallow because most people, when they're triggered, they have a lot of justification for why they're triggered. And it can be really hard to say, oh, wait, this is actually something about me.
That's right.
Wow. Okay, so once you identify a couple of these things, then what?
Yeah. So, um, the identifying in and of itself is a really important part of working with shadow because as we've been saying, when it's in the shadow, we don't even recognize it as part of ourselves. So, we're talking about it pretty casually, like, okay, once you identify it, but really, even just the being able to say, there is a part of me that wants to be bigger than everybody else in the room, as an example, right? Um, that just in and of itself is huge. And if we can say that and stay regulated inside of our nervous systems and not get triggered and just really own it from a regulated place, there is a part of me that is really selfish, that doesn't want to do anything for anyone else, right? Whatever it is. So the identifying can actually be huge in the process. But from there, if we want to go deeper, and I don't recommend doing this on your own, it's important to do it in a safe container, being held by someone who has been trained in this kind of work. There's lots of different things you can do, but in general, you want to do what I call it lean in deeper to the shadow. So, what that means is, in one way or another, and I teach different somatic techniques on this, you actually want to intentionally explore and even step into, just in the safe container of the session, the more unsavory parts or the parts that you're ashamed of. The reason being what we've already shared a number of times, which is that the more we befriend the shadow, the more we own the shadow, the more we intentionally lean into the energy of the shadow, the less we are its servant. And that's when things happen that we don't want to have happen, the accidental things, the projection, the this, the that. And the more we have command over the superpowers of the shadow, because each of the shadows really does have a superpower embedded in it. That's the thing that we need for our life force and to create what we want in our lives.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for emphasizing that the work is best done absolutely with support. It's intense. I mean, I have been a student and a client of shadow work. I've done, we do it a little bit differently in IFS work, but um, it's so nice to be held in the process. So I'll just say that. I'm I'm thinking about the bitch, the one that you mentioned earlier. It's such a big one. I think it's a huge one for women. Nobody wants to be a bitch.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe some people do, but let's just say. And it seeps out and you can just find yourself being quote unquote bitchy. And then, like you said, that can hurt other people and it can also hurt yourself sometimes. But when we have that in shadow and we bitchy isn't okay, then there's like this lack of expression, lack of self-expression that happens.
There's a lack of self-expression, and this isn't true for all women because every shadow can mean something different for someone else. But having worked with as many women that I have on this shadow, I can say 9 plus times out of 10, when you have your bitch in shadow, it is related to power. It
Mm,
is related to stifling your power, to experiencing empowerment and full agency in your life. And it is no coincidence that in our culture, many women who hold powerful positions, whether it's in government or in Hollywood or in, businesses, they are called bitches,
right.
right? It is a way to vilify and bring shame to women in power. And again, 9 times out of 10, when someone's inner bitch is causing havoc, like saying really obnoxious, mean, awful things, let's say to other people, it is because we have not owned our power. And this is just that our the shadow of power's way of trying to get power over
Mm,
someone else.
right.
Versus when we're owning power, we can be in power with other people and
Mm.
situations.
Yeah, such a big distinction between empowered and power over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad we came back to that, and I'm glad that you talked about it in the way that you did because it's true. Like women in power are often called bitches, and yeah, it's like no.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons, I work with entrepreneurs, and coaches and therapists and transformational practitioners. And one of the biggest, we can call it obstacles that when women first come to me, they have is they say, I want to have more visibility. I want to be bigger in my work. I want to be able to achieve these things, and I just feel like I can't. And once we start digging and looking for shadow, oftentimes what comes up is even though the woman, the individual thinks she's okay with power and obviously wants power because she wants to be powerful in her business. She's got 3/4 of the spectrum of power in shadow. She has already, because society has already prejudged what kind of power is okay and then what kind of power is just not okay. And because of that, it's like you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just disconnect from your ability to all of it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and then you end up kind of spinning your wheels and not getting anywhere or not getting anywhere you want to, or maybe going at a very slow pace.
Yeah.
And again, like wondering why. So I think that's it's a place to really pause. I'm just inviting anyone who's listening and everyone who's listening to do a little self-inquiry around where are there places where you're feeling frustrated, where you're not getting sort of being what you want to be in the world or the things that you would like to experience. And when it's hard to see what's holding you back, I just think it's because there's things in shadow.
Yeah.
Like that's the answer. And of course it takes some time to figure out what those things are and then and work with them, but I think that's the place to look. And I know for me, it certainly was the place to look because as we're talking, of course, I'm reflecting on a year ago being in a 3-day shadow work class with you and really playing out this part that um yeah, that was in part wanting to be a bitch and in part wanting to um be the one who I forgot how you said it. You said it a couple of times. Um,
Bigger
the
than
one with the
everyone
most
else.
power in the room. What did you say?
The one
Yeah.
who wants to be bigger than everyone else.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it was really hard to step into it. It was easy to step into it in like a kind of obnoxious, playful way. and just kind of pretend I was on stage being like, some whoever. But to really then take a pause and say, okay, like, how does it actually feel inside to be much bigger than I am, more visible, more powerful, more of a thought leader, more present in the world with my work? It was like, okay, yes, I am up against these parts that I put into shadow or exile, and for good reason a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it was really, really holding me back, like
Yeah.
in such a big way. And yeah, I'd say fast forward 1 year and a lot has changed.
So much. I remember that retreat, and I love seeing the difference between then and now. Yeah. And as you were just talking, Robyn, I thought I would toss this in case this is relevant for everyone as we're talking about this topic. This topic of wanting to be bigger. Well, that also means owning that you're competitive. And for
Yeah.
women, that's something that's been frowned upon, unless you're an athlete. That's why I love athletics, because competition is championed in athletics. But
Mhm.
we've somehow along the way gotten the message that it's not ladylike to be competitive. It means that we can't be friends, and support people if we're also competitive with them. We have to be manipulative to be competitive. But the truth is, to achieve most things that we want to achieve in the world, there has to be an element of competition. There's part of that drive to be the best, to be the
Mhm.
biggest. And that's how
Yes.
the world gets to be a better place, right? When we try to consistently improve.
Right. Yeah, it's really true. And I think it's really, before we go on our next commercial break, I think it's really tricky among women because it's like, we all want to be really nice to each other.
Yes.
And kind and caring and loving. And of course I aspire to do that and I practice that. And also sometimes I just, need to put and choose to put myself first and my own retreats and workshops and classes first because yeah, I want something for myself, for them, for the participants and
Yeah. Yeah. And what would it look like to be kind, loving, and caring and competitive
yes.
and selfish?
Yes. Yes, I just had a really great opportunity to do that yesterday. So thank you for naming it. And yeah, it was, still have a few parts in there that were like, oh, but it just made so much sense. And I know how to do it now. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for bringing that piece because that piece is so in shadow and it's so taboo. I can feel the ripples. Some people like, oh, wait, did she just say it's okay to be competitive? It's like, how did men learn like healthy competition and like women just didn't?
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. A good topic. We will be right back. Welcome back to Come Back to Love Radio. We're on Dream Vision 7 every Thursday, 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Joanna, this is such an amazing conversation, and it's so personal to me, which is one of the reasons I love it. But also, it's such an important topic. It really, really is, and I think it's one that actually, like I already said, shadows in shadow, but just kind of the whole topic is in shadow, you know?
It's true. It's so true. And, I'll just say, similar to you, Robyn, I've been doing my own work with my own shadows for decades, and there's always more. I'm still always learning about new parts of myself or having to go back to old parts that I thought I brought out of shadow. And it's because of what you're talking about. We as a culture, we don't talk about this enough.
Right. Mm, it's so sad. It's sad. And I'm glad that we're talking about
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So I would love you to share how people can connect with you. and anything you want to offer to the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I am always so happy to connect. I'm a relationships person. So you can find me at my website, which is applieddepthinstitute.com. And you can also find me on social media at joanna.lindenbaum. And for anybody that wants to go deeper with this topic of shadow, I have a free PDF that is related to everything we've been talking about. It's on what I call the resistance archetypes. They are forms of shadow. So some of the resistance archetypes are the inner victim, the inner judge, the procrastinator, the confused one, the needy one. There are a couple in there, and I've got an ebook on how to start working with them. So whether you're a practitioner or not, you can also use it for your own inner development. There's some juicy information there.
I'm so glad you're sharing that. I've been thinking about those archetypes during this conversation there. It's really valuable to take a look at at yourself and get to know these parts and get to know more about what's in shadow for, for you, for all the listeners. So thank you for sharing that particular ebook. It's great. Really, really helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to share it.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Joanna. Thank you to our listeners. This has been so great. I'm really, really glad we had this time. And I always suggest, and I'm going to suggest again, that people re-listen to this episode. There are so many juicy bits and so many pieces. And shadow is one of those topics that, can take a bit of time to kind of grasp and allow it to land. So download the episode and listen again and again. Share it with whoever you think would also find value. We're grateful for that, and we'll see you next Thursday, 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Dream Vision 7. Thank you, everybody.